Hi there, Megan Thompson here with Megan Thompson Coaching. And if you are parenting a sensitive kid who tends to hold it all in only to explode at home, and you wonder whether or not they are communicating with you what it is that they're bothered by in the school setting, and that they don't know how to navigate or advocate for themselves, then this show is for you. So I want to tie this need that you have as a parent to a story today that might seem unrelated, but stick with me and I promise you will find tons of nuggets to take home in your parenting journey. Now, again, we here at MTC help parents of highly sensitive kids eliminate daily meltdowns in as little as 8 weeks. And we do that with parents whose kids are having, hitting, kicking, screaming, yelling, throwing things, running away to their room, hiding under the bed, hiding in the closet, saying life would be better off without me, and I want to go see grandma in heaven. You name it. All of these comments have come out of our clients' children's mouths, and we work directly with parents to be the therapeutic change agent for their children and stop this cycle so quickly, because what we do is research-backed and evidence-based. So I want to highlight the need you have for parenting a sensitive kid, right? Is to, number one, create psychological safety and physical safety in your house. Make sure that everybody, yourself included, isn't hit or scratched or, get nailed in the eyeball with a pencil, for example. And you're not raising your voice, your child isn't raising your voice, everybody in the household is using respectful language, right? So all of those are high priorities in a safe and healthy household. And in order to get there, you have to manage your mindset, you have to change how you see your child's emotions, and you have to change your child's capacity to feel understood so that they tell you what's going on before they explode, right? Why do kids explode? Because they're holding in stress until they just can't take it anymore. So we know that the meltdown cycle is a family dynamic cycle. And so I want to talk about this one part of the cycle that we see so often for parents that you might not be picking up on in terms of when you need to address this as a parent in order to see lasting results. So we're going to cover that today. And I want to do this in a little bit more of a anecdotal manner than I typically do. So I was actually conversing with a company that I had purchased a product. I bought a device. I bought a like a GPS watch, GPS texting watch. I'm not going to name the company, so I won't, spoiler alert, I will not share the name of the company through this video, so sorry for that. But what I will tell you is that I asked for a refund because I was working with them over and over again to get the thing to work. It wasn't functional. My child, she's 8. We moved to a new area. You might know we moved from Maryland to Pittsburgh area, and my oldest made fast friends. Literally, like the day or the second day we moved in was at the next door neighbor's house all day long, and they've got multiple children as well. So it's just like a party in our neighborhood, and it's awesome. And we went from a very quiet, remote place to hopping pretty quickly. And in this dynamic, I haven't met everybody. I don't, and my child in her third grade 8-year-old mentality is just innocent, and I plan on keeping it that way. And so I also didn't want to inhibit her in her growth for communicating with friends and making friends quickly, because she's an extrovert. She's very friendly. And I didn't want to squash that sparkle or weigh her down with some of the more morose reasons for why we need to know where she is at all times, just in terms of society and the odds of kids being groomed or impacted by adults that we just don't know yet, right? So balancing conservative parenting without being isolationistic, and when I say conservative, I mean intentional. I don't have my kid just like run amok with screens. You guys might have heard or watched the show before. We've done trainings on how kids can be pretty quickly indoctrinated and groomed on screens, as well as obviously adults and can be impacted through the screens, and it's not helpful. And I am also not to the point where I'm parenting in an extreme manner. I don't think that that's healthy either in terms of shutting everything down. So we limit screen time in my household. We limit access to media, and I'm pretty focused on what I curate. And I understand that that's my personal decision. I don't implore my worldview on other people. I just make sound decisions based on my family's values and the understanding that I have in being a clinician by trade, who worked with some pretty significantly traumatized kids from all walks of life. So I make sound safety decisions, and this training isn't to give you advice on what decisions you want to make for your kid related to whether or not your kid needs a watch to run amok in the neighborhood. But that's what I decided to do for my family. Okay, so I decided not to get a cell phone, a flip phone, or anything like that, because my kid's 8 and she would leave it somewhere because that's what 8-year-olds do. And this way I could, ring her and say, hey, time to come home if something changed. And I knew that it would get to her even if she was running from house to house. So that's what we decided to do. Gave me an opportunity for peace of mind, helped my daughter have a visual reminder that she has responsibilities without like harping or feeling like a helicopter parent, because that is not, like, if I had my way, we would be free ranging my my kid, right? So both kids, but the other ones too. So she's as free range as she can be as a 2-year-old. We live in a little bit of a busy street, so it's not entirely an objective that I can perpetuate. But anyways, rather than getting into like the nitty gritty details of where we live, the construct of our neighborhood, what I think is more important for us to talk about is this relationship that I developed with the customer service of this company. And because I wasn't satisfied with the work that I was getting, the output I was getting from this watch. So it's hooked up to our phone line. We have to pay for a service through the company. It's locked down in the sense that the kid can't there's no games on it. There's she can send like voice notes to me to let me know where she's going, and then she has like some choices for text messages, I think. But like on the screen, she's not really going to be writing an essay, and then can do like some slight recording, little pictures or mini videos, like a minute long or something like that. And that's it. And that's how I like it. But I didn't want it attached to any sort of phone, so she would have a reason to have a phone, nothing like that. So I liked it for all these reasons. It was wasn't as high priced as a device that I have for the watch, because I didn't want to deal with my 8-year-old needing to be so careful with it either, right? So lots of factors went into purchasing this device. And I was disappointed because we would set it up, and then I would make a phone call to her, and it would give me the, your call cannot be completed as dialed. And I'd already sent my kid on her merry way, or she grabbed it and like hollered from upstairs, right? Like, I'm going to so-and-so's. And so we had a good thing going, unless, of course, I actually needed to use the thing. So I had the placebo effect of the peace of mind. And so I reached out to the company. For several weeks, we were working on this. Like, hey, how do we fix this? This isn't working. Okay, do a factory reset. Okay, fine, do a factory reset. Okay, now, like, try this, try that. 2 factory resets later, a restructure, get a new phone number, all this stuff. Finally, have one more instance where I'm calling her because I thought it was resolved. Didn't, get the call cannot be completed as dialed. And so I just reached out to the company. It was like, hey, I would like a refund. This isn't going to work. It's not working. And how do I go about doing that? And I was pretty sure I was well outside of the 30-day mark. I mean, not 6 months out, but it's definitely been longer than 30 days, but we were working on it. It wasn't working, right? So I was giving chances after chances. And I need to buy a replacement, so why not ask, right? So I asked, and because the company didn't provide the service. If I was misusing the product, if I just didn't like it, like, then fine, I would sell it on a marketplace and get a new one, right? But in this situation, the device was defective, or the process is defective. I don't know. It's a newer company, I think. And so given that, I just asked for the refund. And here's the funny thing. When I asked for the refund, I said, this isn't working. I would like a full refund. And the company sent me an email that was normal. Like, hey, we would love to help you for another month. Why don't we give you like the free phone service for a month while we work on this? And I just said, no, thank you. A month hasn't done it already. This isn't going to work. I would like the refund. I might not have said thank you. I might have just said, no, that's not going to do anything. But I wasn't rude. And then what happened was I got an email that was clearly a form letter, that they send to dissatisfied customers. And part of the form letter was, we're going to issue you the refund, thankfully, right? Appreciative of that. However, we're going to make it a one-time exception, and we need to attend to the matter of how you communicate to the staff. It is important that you ensure that communication to the staff is respectful and kind, I think it said, something like that. Now, with my personality and my history of cursing like a sailor and having very, very ineffective, anger management skills as a young person, and you probably heard my life story in some other show, unless of course you're new here. Part of why I teach what I teach is because I was not an emotionally calm, managed, or respectful or communicative person, and had to learn all these skills, and I teach it to adults in addition to obviously becoming a child therapist. And I didn't learn any of the skills that I teach now in the school I went to be a therapist. So that's why I don't just work in the therapy office. I don't work in the therapy office at all anymore, but I used to. And so it's kind of funny that I got a message from a company saying that basically having a form letter noting disrespectful communication, because the communication to me was direct. I just said, I'm not interested in giving it another month. That won't matter because we haven't gotten to the result yet, right? Clear, concise. The prior email, I had said, this device isn't working. We've had yet another call cannot be completed as dialed. This is a ripoff. I would like a refund. Thank you. That's it. That's all I said. Okay. So I'm not saying that I, that's the only language I used was ripoff, right? Which one would presume it's a bit of an accusation, right? But I was frustrated. And also the communication, in my opinion, wasn't a completely out of the wheelhouse of the service. Like, they were touting that this would work and it wasn't working. I said, and we were going back and forth. Just said, I'm done working with this company and I would like a refund because I think I'm getting ripped off here. Right? So direct, no judgmental language besides that one term. And then also the follow-up email where I said, no, that's not going to matter. I still would like the refund. No judgmental language in that email. And then I get a second email where they said, okay, we're going to be sending you the refund, and we're going to, you can expect that within the next, 3 to 5 business days. Okay, great. Day later, get an email saying, this is actually outside of our terms, and, sorry, like basically the form letter of, we're sorry, we wish you the best of luck. And so I responded and said, I don't understand. Yesterday you said you'd give me the refund. Today you said you wouldn't. Believe me, when I'm going into this detail, guys, I have a point. Stay with me. I will not keep you much longer with this. I said, which one is it? Question mark, right? And because at this point you're contradicting yourself. And that's when they sent another form letter associated with the same kind of tone that they sent yesterday. We understand it's confusing and we won't accept the disrespectful communication. And, I probably should just read it briefly because it was very confusing, right? Let's see, without going into too much detail. I said, hey, I'm confused. Hello, I'm confused. I received refund notifications yesterday. Which notice is accurate? The watch does not work. And how can you market yourselves as a device that works for children when it doesn't, when I can't actually use it to contact my child? So then we want you to know how frustrating it is when things don't go as planned. At such and such community company, we are committed to providing exceptional customer service. And then we understand that issues may arise that is frustrating, and it is important to maintain a respectful and courteous dialogue to effectively address your concerns. So this is the second time that they are naming that, this commitment extends to ensuring a respectful and professional interaction between our customers and our team members. So my response was, I'm confused, right? And I won't accept your accusation that I'm being disrespectful when I'm calling you out for not providing appropriate service, right? I said, I disagree with your twice accusation that holding the company accountable to its standard promises and inquiring about contradicting statements is to be considered disrespectful, right? So disrespect would be attacking the character of the service providers or using foul language. And a customer asking how a company can make claims and then not uphold them is not disrespectful. It's an honest reflection of mistrust and an appropriate response to such contradictions. I will in no way be spending more money with your company. Because the rest of the email, they were like, hey, we just upgraded the watch. There's a new one coming out. Why don't you buy that? We'll give you 50% off. I'm like, absolutely not, right? And my, like, I mean, this is like, have you ever seen those memes where it's like, how do I say, get the heck out of here? In like professional language, right? And that was my email of like, I will in no way be spending more money with your company and expect the full refund per your initial report. Thank you very much. Sincerely, right? So then they send back and then we're sorry to hear you're not satisfied. We will be giving you the refund. Guys. And then which is so funny. So this is the why I made this podcast, because I don't usually I used to get like, you wouldn't believe what happened to me. Like that used to be like how I would tell my stories. I would say like, and then I got hit by, like, then I got a red light. Like that was like the highlight of my day was this, whatever frustrated me. Right. And now I don't get frustrated by hitting red lights, but that used to be my mentality of like negativity, focus, negativity, avoid danger, blah, blah, blah. Right. Highlight all this stuff. And so changing my mindset took a lot of work, but now like this stuff just doesn't even faze me. I just write the email and it's like, whatever, forget about it. And so there's no way that I would be making a podcast episode about this if I couldn't tie it to parenting. So we get to this. This is so funny. So let me read to you the next sentence. Navigating the complexities of customer relations can be challenging, particularly when it comes to addressing mistakes or misunderstandings. In these delicate situations, apology letters or emails offer a powerful and personal means to acknowledge the issue, convey remorse, and demonstrate a commitment to making amends. AI much, right? Like clearly the person is using AI to help them write a letter to me, like write the email, and then they're copying the advice that the robot is giving them into the email to me. They're just selecting all and throwing it into the email. So what happens is the email is now being read by me. If I wasn't savvy, right? If I wasn't a business owner who stays up with technology, I would be hearing that sentence as the person telling me to write them an apology letter, right? So, but because I've used AI in my business, and I will continue to use technology in my business as a tool to help me save time, improve outcomes for my for social media, things like that. And then also just for like organizational purposes, I use it for a lot behind the scenes rather than client facing or prospective customer facing, you guys, audience facing, right? But in terms of organizing like my brain, it really speeds up the process of taking a brain dump and brainstorming and creating outlines. So I use it for that purpose. Writing is not my, I'm not a speedy writer. So I use it to help me organize my thoughts, and then I write. So it saves a heck of a lot of time on that front. However, obviously, it's important that you guys trust me and my company, because I don't have many podcast episodes with my team. So I need to convey the confidence in my team through just this conversation with you here as an audience and as a listener. And so it's incredibly important that I not use technology to the extent of what it's promising to be used for, right? Because I would be sending out fluff like this email, right? But which would make it very difficult to trust the team. But I want to bring this point home here, because this is something that actually a prior mentor advised me to do when they found out the services that we provide with our signature 8-week program and the amount of supports we have in place, and the fact that I have master's level clinicians in our help desk who are not working directly face-to-face on live calls. They're purely, their role is to respond in the help desk. We have some people whose role is to do both, to do live call and help desk support. But we have clients who come to us whose kids are chucking like whatever's in front of them. Could be a wrench from the counter, and they're throwing it, right? There's no way I'm going to have someone be, fresh out of school working for our team, or even a graduate from our program without experience, right? Without professional experience, without a degree. And so it was advised to me to see if we could automate some of our responses, if we could template in a way that would allow for a robot robot help desk, right? Like AI chatbot, some of our work. Or if our team could be reduced in expertise and still get the same result. So I've had mentors, I've actually had friends ask me, like colleague friends, right? People who are outside of the field, if we could do that in order to address the company's scalability, right? Because we were having a couple years ago, we were working to find positions, and it was harder. It was hard at that time to fill one of the positions that we needed. And so somebody was asking, hey, can you just like widen your pool, right? And then someone else was asking, can you reduce the labor costs, and as a suggestion. And anytime anyone ever brings that up, I never take them up on that suggestion, because as a company, it is critically important that you feel, as our listener, if you ever hire us, that you're getting expert support, and that you're getting support from people who really know what they're talking about. They have at least 10 years of experience solving this problem and problems that come with managing kids with the meltdown cycle. And this is something that I just feel so convicted about. It's so important to me that we never offer watered down advice or just basic advice, because it's the human brain's inclination to oversimplify complex problems to the point where you actually keep yourself stuck. So for example, if someone says, we've had this before. I'll give you a clear example. We had a parent where the child was really struggling to get out the door on time. We were working on taking it piece by piece, addressing the factors that play into this. So it's not just a blanket advice, and we're working on one piece. I said, I'm going to work on this with you first. And then in my mind, I already have the cascade of, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. However, the parent didn't let me finish my sentences. Which is fine because they were panicked. They were stuck in survival mode, which means anxious, ready for the solution to be right here, right here. Let's go. Come on, come on, come on. They were also nervous about the implications of addressing this and time pressed to get this fixed now, because they jumped into work with us after having dealt with this problem with their child for months to a year, depending on the kid, depending on the family. But this one example where dad said, I could have given my kid a little bit more time, but I can't wait forever to get out the door. And I want to pay attention to this. This is a construct that we talk about in the mental health world. It's called all or nothing thinking. I could go all in and give my kid more time all the way, or the opposite of that is to give them no time, right? So if I'm going to give them no time, I already tried that. Rushing a sensitive kid with no emotion management skills is going to create a disaster. You probably know that, right? Like listening to me and dealing with this problem in your household. You know that telling your kid to hurry the heck up and get going and we're late is just going to pour gasoline on a fire in the morning. And so they already did doing nothing isn't going to work. But what's the alternative of that? Well, then I got to give them all the time in the world. And this is where trying to solve the problem with tiny little bits of advice is going to keep you stuck, because your mind is already in panic mode. It's going from one end of the spectrum to the other, all the support in the world to none of the support in the world. And so then what happens is the dad's like, well, I can't wait all day. And obviously, as a good coach will say to a client who needs to hear what they need to hear instead of what they want to hear, I said, no one told you you're going to wait all day. I didn't say it like that. I mean, we have rapport, so maybe I did. But the alternative, though, is at times when a parent says that to me, especially if they first get started working with me, I say, and what if it takes all day, right? Is that going to be the end of the world for you, that one day? Well, it would if it lasts 6 more days or 10 more days. And this is when we really slow down a client in order to speed them up. And this is one thing that I really want you to hear as a listener of the show, is that the panic mentality of the meltdown cycle isn't just stuck on your kid. It's stuck on you too. Whether you like it or not, you're in this tornado situation in your household as well. And your way of thinking and your way of responding to advice from in solving this problem, when you just look at advice from a tactic level, like, slow down the morning and help your kid put their shoes on so they don't freak out when they're chucking their shoes, the word slow down gets blown up just like everything else in the household gets blown up, right? You start to think, well, my kid is hitting and therefore they're going to hit for the rest of their life. That's what anxiety will do. And anxiety is contagious. So you're feeding off your kid's anxiety and you're feeding off of, and your kid's feeding off of your anxiety. So again, everybody's pouring gasoline on each other's fires. And so when we look at the meltdown cycle, like what it is, right? A clear-minded, effective person who has their own standards, who can lead themselves out of any sort of accusations or fears, can then take a situation like kiddos saying, I need more time and I'm not ready yet, and observe and ask, as a parent, ask yourself, how much more time could my child need? Let me observe whether or not my meeting can be pushed back by 10 minutes, or whether or not my boss will tolerate me being late, or whatever, right? Like being able to have that conversation to yourself in a slow, calculated 1 + 1 = 2 mentality, rather than 1 + 1 = 10. Because if I do this today, then I'm going to have to do it for the rest of the week. And my kid will learn to never be on time, which is just simply a prediction that you cannot prove, right? It's just fortune telling thinking, and it's not going to get you anywhere. Some of the communication tactics that you can get stuck in your limiting in your survival mode can actually limit you in breaking out of the meltdown cycle. And when your child is perceived to be in charge of the event, you will either try to retake back control and say, no, I'm not going to teach them that like promptness is an option. So no, I'm not going to acknowledge that they're overstimulated by their shoes and they don't know how to manage how to get their shoes on without feeling like their skin is crawling off. I'm going to make them suck it up, and I'm going to make them get in the car, because my reaction is, if I give control to my kid and take them seriously in this moment, that means I relinquish all control to my child, and therefore they are now in charge of the morning, right? And an observant expert who can be neutral to the situation, who isn't in the household in the morning with you, will hear that and say, slow down. Hang on, bucko. That's not what your kid said, and it doesn't have to be your reality. And so when you slow down, you can actually speed up the process of observing what actually is triggering your kiddo. Why are they struggling? Why do they have the shoe meltdown or the sock meltdown? Is it because of the sensory implications of the seams and the tightness and the sweatiness and all that jazz? Or is it the fact that the shoes indicate that today's gym day, and at gym, they don't feel very adequate in their athleticism, or Sally makes fun of them in class and they haven't told you that yet. Or Joey gets too handsy. He's pretty rough and it feels uncomfortable, and he pulls on your kid's neck, and your kid hasn't shared that with you. So the meltdown is not about the shoe, the sock, the going to school on time for the first period. The meltdown is about PE that's going to happen 3 periods from now, and your kid isn't sharing that with you because they're so overloaded, they're so overwhelmed, and they're used to getting told, no, suck it up, or they're used to being trusted in their anxiety and letting their anxiety run the show. Oh my gosh, this anxiety must be so big for you. That means that you shouldn't go. Let's just take a break from out of school, right? So the kiddo's not going to share with you if these all or nothing patterns are your only patterns to demonstrate safety in the household and to keep them from chucking the shoes, right? Because we're talking about physical safety. We're talking about psychological safety as I started the show. And so I want you to really understand that the patterns of behavior that your kiddo is demonstrating, that is a problem in the moment. But it is not the cause of the problem. We have a thing that we say here at MTC, and Coach Autumn, our director of coaching, says this a lot. The problem is not the problem. What you think is the problem is not what's driving the issue. So lecturing your kids about how sometimes we need to wear shoes in the winter, and shoes are not sandals, or finding the right Crocs with fuzzies in them and socks so that your kid gets out the door in like generally meaningful footwear that's not going to lead to them getting frostbite. That's not the cause of the issue. It is not the problem. They might have a sensory overload, but the sensory overload is coming from nervous system overload, and the nervous system overload is coming from the fact that they have a fight or flight issue, and they have a fight or flight issue because they don't know how to dissipate their emotions. They don't know how to regulate their feelings. They don't know how to communicate their needs. They don't know how to advocate with their friends, and they don't know how to set their standards so that they stop being people pleasers. And all of those skills I got from a conversation of an anecdote with a kiddo, with a parent, because the kiddo didn't want to put on the shoes, right? Again, we're going back to the problem is not the problem. So I want you to hear me when I say this, that when you are reactive, your skills in any situation will be an indicator of how you show up in parenting, because wherever you go, there you are. How you perform in one avenue of your life is how you perform in another avenue of your life. If you're burnt out at work, you're likely burnt out at home and responding in a treading water mentality as well. So I want to bring us back to this crazy email I got. The email, clearly the person is just copying and pasting and, oops, sorry, I just hit my microphone. Hopefully that audio is fine for you. I could presume, and I could get offended from this email. And past me, old Megan, Mad Meg, like I got nicknamed in grad school when I was waitressing and losing it in the weeds, running the restaurant outside in downtown DC. I would have seen an email like this. I would have ruminated on it for the rest of the day, and I would have told like 4 different people to reassure myself that I wasn't crazy. Now, instead, I have a podcast with over 100,000, or I don't know, where are we at? Over 10,000, maybe even over 100,000 downloads at this point. I don't know. I probably shouldn't quote numbers that I don't know what I'm talking about. But now I can tell the universe about it and get no response, right? Because I'm not expecting people to respond to this matter, because I don't need external reassurance. I don't need external validation. And that's a skill set that you have to teach your sensitive kid, right? I want to talk about this because your sensitive kid who needs her friend to know that she cares about her and doesn't speak up when her friend is like, tugging on her back and running on her in PE, which leads her to not be interested in putting on her sneakers that remind her of PE at the start of the morning. Your sensitive kid doesn't have a skill to advocate for herself, doesn't have a skill to talk about the problem and feel comfortable and in control talking about the problem at all. And this is something that we see our clients struggle with and have these big aha moments in our work. Now, I want to call attention to two different clients, and I'll use pseudonyms because we're going to talk about their child's needs. But these are two families who work with us in our year-long mastermind. So both families came to us with daily meltdowns, multiple meltdowns a day. Child was really, screaming, kicking, holding on, body on the floor kind of behavior. And they came to us with their kiddos being, one was 6 and the other one was 8. All right. So these are well out of the toddler stage kiddos. And one set of parents, one parent, dad works in science research and mom works in medicine in a hospital. And the other family, mom is a professor and dad works in tech. Okay, so these are well-educated, the parent of the 8-year-old is the professor and tech positions, okay? So just to differentiate the two. Well-educated, learned people who'd studied all the things and felt stuck, came to work with us, and we got them out of the meltdown cycle. And then what happened is they had to learn to teach their kid to navigate regular, everyday social skills issues that sensitive kids have that most kids don't pick up on. They don't typically deal with these problems at the extent that sensitive kids have. Now, here's what I know in the research and what we've seen over and over and over again is that sensitive children who learn how to manage their emotions through their parents perform above and beyond their peers. You can see this in my trainings. I've shared research reports as well as imagery to, scales and data to back that up. All right. But that's the overarching acknowledgement is that sensitive children are more observant than their peers. They see the big picture more than their peers. They're more collaborative than their peers. 1 out of every 5. So this is 20% of the population. And oftentimes there's a correlation, not a causation, but a correlation with very clever thinking kids, which can indicate that they are intellectually advanced, if not gifted. Okay, so these are kids who may or may not have ADHD, may or may not be clinically considered gifted, but these are smart, clever, communicative, creative, compassionate children who are overloaded by their emotions, overloaded by their environment, overloaded by their, by their family's communication patterns and the stress in the household, and as a result having meltdowns because they don't have the skills to manage these regular everyday stressors plus their observation of how other people impact other people. This is an observation that sensitive people have that not sensitive people, that non-highly sensitive people don't typically have unless you teach it to them. Okay, so innately sensitive people will observe the collective community as a natural observation. And if they don't know how to take that information in and categorize it and do something about it, instead it will overwhelm them because sensitive people have a higher value of morality. They have a higher interest in keeping the collective together. And so what happens is they start to take more responsibility than what's necessary because they're not talking to their parents about what they should or shouldn't be in charge of. Because they're not bringing their strifes to their parents, again, because they're having meltdowns instead. and their strifes are hidden. All right, so I want to talk about the situation. So we'll call 6-year-old Mary, all right, and we'll call the 8-year-old Anna. So Mary was having an issue, and I just spoke with her parents about this a little while ago, where Mary's friend was engaging with her and taking over the conversation and also the play, and then would get very physical with Mary. Mary would be playing, and the friend would be like hanging all over her, wrestling her, jumping on her, just really engaging in full-bodied play in a way that Mary didn't like. And then on top of that, Mary's needs were, how do I say this? Mary tended to be more of a really focused on like the morality and the righteousness in the classroom. So there was a certain time where she had been refusing to do her schoolwork because she felt like the teacher was mistreating, speaking disrespectfully, condescending, for example, another kiddo. So Mary had decided to communicate in the way that she knew how, which was to just like check out from the teacher's leadership, because she didn't think the teacher was being a very effective leader. So she would just read and not do her work. And so she basically took an emotional strike, which I'm chuckling at, because I mean, what a clever solution. Not a very effective solution, but very clever, right? And we don't assume that the 6-year-old is spiteful. We don't make those assumptions here at MTC. So parents were worried about that. Parents were concerned that she was building resentment. But really, she was just checking out from the intensity in the situation and finding something pro-social to do, reading, instead of what was expected of her, because she had a hard time finding respect for the teacher. So we worked on that. Kiddo stopped reading at inappropriate times, got her work done, was doing just fine with that, and was still working on managing this communication with the teacher, and as well as dealing with this friend, right? So she worked through doing what was asked of her in the classroom, doing what was needed for her in that respect, and yet she still had to deal with this kiddo, and she had to communicate to the teacher that this kiddo was just climbing all over her. And so because she didn't feel comfortable doing that, she told her parents, sensitive kids who don't feel comfortable in one avenue and also don't feel comfortable sharing and also don't have the skills to share actually will stay trapped longer. And this is what creates that level of strife where child is not demonstrating skills to her best ability, right? Think about it this way. If you were at work and you didn't have the skills to communicate to your boss that the way they're talking in the group meetings and the team meetings is demoralizing, is reducing morale, right, and is disappointing, if you didn't have the skills to do that, and let's just leave it at that. You didn't have the skills to do that. I'm not going to attack the boss's character. Then you come home and you didn't have the skills to tell your spouse what you were worried about. You didn't have the skills to be vulnerable with your spouse. And you didn't have the skills to navigate stress at a high level. And you're parenting and you're trying to co-parent, and then you're also trying to manage a household with a spouse. Would you yell or shut down with that spouse if you didn't have those skills? Probably, right? So you do one or the other, or maybe both. And so when we're looking at the challenges that a child has, a kiddo who has much less years of experience, much less emotional maturity, much less emotion regulation skills, of course they're having meltdowns because they are missing skills in all of these avenues. So once we got the kiddo to stop having the meltdowns because we were building the skills at the foundation, then we got the kiddo to tell us what was really going on in the classroom. Then we were able to help the parents advocate for this kiddo in the classroom and speak up for the other kiddo who wasn't being treated properly, change the culture in the classroom, which is pretty phenomenal because not everybody's willing to change. Adults meaning in that respect. So they got the situation working. They also got the kiddo, like we said, we got the kiddo to do her work when it was necessary. And then we were left navigating this other friend who is just, needs a lot, needs a lot of physical input. and is pretty full-bodied in her play. And that's when we were able to coach parents on, what do I do with this friend? How do I help her navigate these relationships? And how do I help her say no means no to this other friend of hers, right? And so I want you to understand that the need for self-advocacy and the need for to avoid people-pleasing and teaching your kid, the takeaway I want you to have from this story isn't how effective we are as coaches. I mean, that would be great if you pick that up. But what I want you to understand is that as a parent, there are layers to your child's growth in communicating where they're stuck. And it's probably not just in, I don't want to wear these sneakers to gym, and I need to talk to my teacher about that. It's probably not just in, Joey is not feeling very nice, right? Or the teacher's not being very nice to Joey, and you reassure the kiddo that the teacher is going to eventually change their tone, or that Joey's parents will figure it out for Joey, right? Because we look at the cascade of issues that Mary was withholding, and because she didn't have the skills to share with this parent. Again, these are parents who are very involved, very well educated, very focused, very attentive, and just didn't have the skills themselves. So I want you to highlight and have pretty high takeaway here regarding the layers to self-advocacy and the important skills necessary for communicating one's needs. And you have to be able to get your ego out of the way in order to do that, right? So my ego was in the way. I would go off like I did when I was in my 20s. I would go off in these customer service communications. And while I was direct and I used the word ripoff, aside from that, there was no other judgy wudgy was bear communication, right? And I'm not akin to just being straight up saying, pretty please, sir, can I have a refund? If I feel like the company is not going to give it to me, I'm going to call them out. So, so they know I'm in business in that respect. And thankfully, that's not, I don't have bad experiences with companies often. So this is few and far between, thank God. But if your kid was stuck in a situation like their friend, which is very parallel to the situation I had with this business here, the people-pleasing mentality would be, well, I don't want them to be upset that I'm upset that they called me disrespectful. Or in case of Mary, I don't want my friend to be upset that I'm upset that she's hanging her body all over mine because she's trying to play. I know she's trying to be playful. And so then what happens is the child learns at such a young age to just simply not respect her own body and let other people take control of her own body. And you and I both know, I'm raising girls, I don't know if you are, but we all want to make sure that no matter what your child's gender is, you're teaching your child that their body needs to be respected by other people and honored, like in terms of the physicality and personal space. And that's critical for a sense of well-being in humanity. So that's important. I want to share one more story because we're getting close to the end of our time here. I'm not going to leave you hanging regarding Anna here. Now, Anna's challenge was in a friend who was not treating her well and wasn't entirely innocent. This kiddo, when I say innocent, I mean this kiddo was vulnerably getting some power out of the situation. She was telling Anna that if she didn't do such and such a thing, then she wouldn't be Anna's friend. If she didn't do such and such a thing, then she would exclude Anna from the game tomorrow. If she didn't do such and such a thing, then she wasn't a good friend, and things like that. And so Anna, being a highly sensitive kid, being a kiddo who really appreciated rules and wanted to follow through, knew she was a good friend. And so she struggled when she told her parents. Again, we got her to tell her parents in the first place through multiple skills, just like with Mary. And she told her parents, and she was saying, well, I want to be considered a good friend, so I don't want to do anything different than what this friend is telling me to do. For example, it was like, leave your item at school overnight or something. I mean, it's like little kid weird stuff, right? But parents are like, this is unlike you to leave this at school. So what's going on here? And so we coached on the fact that that child is clearly missing some social skills that she needs to build. And we're not going to assume that she's a bully or that she can't shift her behavior. And we're also not going to let Anna just like navigate it by herself. There's some needs here that need to be addressed. And we need to involve adults given the kind of the flavor of communication. This kiddo was taking too much agency over Anna's body and emotional well-being in the friendship. And so because of that, we discussed a plan to involve the friends' parents first, kind of alert them before, before involving teachers. But that was part of the conversation that we had, because in this situation, it wasn't something where the teachers, that we should be sitting on it if the kiddo and the parents didn't solve the problem quickly. So gave the parents a step 1, and then if we have to go to step 2, here's what step 2 looks like type advice. And in that situation, parents left that conversation feeling not just empowered, but also like they didn't need to vilify the other child. They didn't need to make their kiddo a victim in the situation or anything like that. Everybody could come out as an empowered person with a backup plan in the situation that didn't put their kiddo, Anna here, in a situation where she had to tolerate being mistreated by a peer. And she could potentially, and they could help her potentially preserve the relationship, because that was important to Anna, the child here. So here's the deal. Your job as a parent of a sensitive kid is to teach your kiddo how to communicate effectively, how to notice their emotions when they're being talked to or communicated with, and then also how to stretch outside of their comfort zone while staying within integrity, right? So the integrity of thinking outside the box. How do I make sure the company is in tip-top shape in different ways without reducing quality of service, as I did with turning down that go ahead and use AI suggestion, right? How do I help my friend see that I can communicate effectively without writing her off, right? Like the all or nothing thinking. How do I help my kid notice that I understand their need without necessarily giving away my power to getting to work on time and providing for the family in this manner, and keeping a reputation and a career that I enjoy and feeling fulfilled through that career, by showing up as my best, while also noticing for them the sneakers are way bigger than just the tongue on the top of the shoe, right? So I want you to really think hard on this. If you feel like you're missing the mark and stopping the meltdown cycle, if your child is really struggling in communicating their needs, you feel like you're pulling teeth, or you're just having whack-a-mole with some of the problems that you solve, another one shows up, that's a clear indicator that you're missing certain perspectives as well as tools to help your child break out of this pattern. And if you want to learn more about what it takes to stop the cycle for good and how to have a much more effectively communicative and connected relationship with your child without the meltdowns, without the ineffective behavior, without the unsafe behavior, and without yelling or taking your kid to therapy for years, then I encourage you to go to meganthompsoncoaching.com/3 mistakes, the word mistakes, so 3 mistakes. And you'll learn through our free training, the 3 mistakes that most parents make in stopping the meltdown cycle. Where do you end up getting tripped up? What holds you back from truly resolving this problem for your family so your child can thrive, so your child can be the world changer that they are designed to be, and they can communicate to other people and lead other people in their community, of circle of friends, and in their school, to actually make an impact. I mean, think about that. This kiddo, the story, she impacted that teacher and the teacher's skill sets. I know when I grew up, there was a teacher, 3rd grade teacher, that for eons, she had a reputation of just being very, very mean. And I had I wasn't soft-spoken. I was a pretty brazen kid. But I was not touching that teacher with a 10-foot pole, giving her feedback, because I knew she would throw it right back at me. Given my skill was to just speak up unabashedly with no tact, right? Even at 3rd grade, I had that awareness that I wouldn't win. So might as well not even try with that third grade teacher. And I want you to observe, what if your kid had the skills to influence somebody who's really, really hard in your life, in your childhood, that you felt like you weren't capable of doing that? Like, isn't that why we're here? To teach our kids to build skills that we never acquired ourselves way earlier, way more efficiently, and way more in depth so that they can thrive faster. If that's the skill sets that you want to have in order to teach them to your kid, go to megathompsoncoaching.com/3 mistakes, and we will see you in that training, and you'll learn more about how you can work directly with our team to solve this problem